Gemini winning ensures zero profitability for any other large language model. Google will force every other player into an endless sea of red ink by keeping its model free until they bleed out, and then it monetizes once its monopoly is secured. Good morning, everybody. We're covering the latest AI news and updates. Got a few things happening right now. There is the code red from OpenAI that we're going to cover again, and the release of a new European model, Mistral, and some other bits and pieces to do with AI. I'm going to show you something very cool with Mistral. So a lot of people are dunking on Mistral for good reason, but they do have a very cool in-browser mini model which can watch what you're doing on your webcam, it can watch what you're doing on your screen, and it can in real time comment. So I'm going to be demonstrating that just to add to the CPU, the GPU chaos that I'm currently causing my computer right now. But let's hop into everything. So we have a code red at OpenAI. I covered this yesterday. There's been a few more details about exactly what is happening. Basically, Sam Altman, the head of OpenAI, sent an internal memo saying, code red, this is a problem. We are in a situation we did not want to be in. This is interesting because a couple of years ago, Google were in this exact situation. So a couple of years ago, Google was sitting on the technology for Lambda. They had large language models. They had dominated artificial intelligence for years through Google DeepMind, for example, with AlphaFold, AlphaGo, AlphaZero, etc. Like a lot of exciting artificial intelligence technology. ChatGPT stole the march on them. They released into the public potentially before they were ready, and they stole the public's attention, basically became synonymous with artificial intelligence, for better or worse. That means that Google have, for the last couple of years, been playing catch up, and OpenAI had free rein to do whatever they wanted. That changed last week, or 2 weeks ago, because we had the release of Gemini 3. And suddenly the lack of focus at OpenAI, the fact that they release all these different functions, all of these different cool tools, came into stark contrast when suddenly another company could match them on their core product, which is the large language model, the chatbot that we use on a daily basis. So I'm going to use Chubby's or Kimonos, I've never said it out loud, Kimonos Chubby on Twitter, who breaks a lot of news. I'm going to use this as a framework to discuss this. OpenAI Sam Altman declares a code red new reasoning model ahead of Gemini 3 next week, as in it should be better than Gemini 3. This is the rumor that is circulating that next week, OpenAI are going to release a new model. Whether it's going to be 5.2, 5.5, I doubt it will be GPT-6, but they are going to be releasing something new, a reasoning model, which is meant to blow Gemini 3 out of the water. Code red, all in on ChatGPT. Altman is pausing ads, AI agents, and posts to reallocate people and compute into fixing and upgrading ChatGPT as competition from Google and others intensify. So they were about to release adverts, and we started to see early code snippets, API endpoints in the Android app. It looks like that is on hold, as well as any other new product releases. I know they were working on things like a health assistant. I think that's been paused. AI agents has been paused. Pulse, everything has been put on pause while they get on top of their main core product, which is ChatGPT, making sure it is the best chat in the world. That is something that they have lost over the last couple of weeks, first to Gemini 3 and then to Claude Opus 4.5. I'm sure that internally at OpenAI, though, Gemini is more of a threat. Google is more of a threat. So new reasoning models. OpenAI plans to ship a new model next week that it says scores ahead of Google Gemini 3 in internal tests, powering features like thinking and deep research. Great, so a better model. Product experience over monetization for now. Ad experiments, including shopping ads, continue in the background, but full rollout is delayed so that the team can first improve core user experience and personalization for their 800 million weekly users. Key upgrade areas include better personalization. That's something they've been focusing on since the release of 5. There was a pushback from the people who liked 4.0. So OpenAI went out of their way to add these personalization options into ChatGPT, the ability to change its personality, the ability to change how it interacts with you. It looks like they're doing more of that. Faster and more reliable responses. 5.1 is pretty fast, quick mode. Fewer unnecessary refusals. After the court cases and suicides, they added more safeguards. And the safeguards are a little bit overzealous sometimes. So people were posting examples of I think the famous one was somebody was asking how to melt chocolate so that they could put it in a dessert. And ChatGPT sent them some suicide hotline resources instead of telling them how to melt chocolate. So sometimes it overblows. This apparently annoys people. I think that they are blowing it out of context, blowing it out of all proportion, and they're just using it as a way to say, oh, ChatGPT, OpenAI is too censored and you can't do what you want with it. You can do pretty much what you want with it. But I think anyone who gets any sniff of censorship, any sniff of kind of control, they go hard on it and they throw the baby out with the bathwater. People ask it about Tiananmen Square. And it's, how often are you thinking about Tiananmen Square in your day-to-day activities? You don't. You are just doing this to get a response that you want from that model so that you can say it's censored, I hate this. And people have been doing this with ChatGPT as well. Image generation is named priority after Google's Banana Pro launched. Good luck. OpenAI wants ChatGPT's image gen to stay competitive for creative and commercial use cases. Image gen, sorry. So I'm not sure if they're going to be able to manage that. Nano Banana Pro and Nano Banana. We actually looked at a chart the other day which shows the, let me see if I can pull it up. No, I don't think so. A chart which showed the growth of downloads of Gemini, and it absolutely spiked. And lots of people have been passing around this chart saying, look, Gemini's catching up. The spike is after Nano Banana. People don't care much about Gemini's large language model. They care about Nano Banana. And Nano Banana has shot the usage of Gemini through the roof. Nano Banana Pro is even better. ChatGPT or OpenAI has an image generation model, but it's crap compared to what Google have. It's bad compared to what XAI have. Grok has a better image generation model. For them to play catch up and quickly release something would be a huge coup because it brings in the public. People are excited to use image and video. It's good for having a viral moment. This is what Sora is good at because people share the videos, and that makes OpenAI look like a very important, a very popular company because it's something that can be shared in a way that language prompts and text cannot. It's just not very exciting to share. However, Google have a massive advantage here in that they own Google Images. They have been cataloging the internet's images, the world's images, for the last few decades in a way that no other company has. Meta have cataloged photos of food from Facebook and Instagram, but Google has cataloged everything. And they have it all tagged, they have it nicely labeled. They use semantic search to search for images using text. And this stuff is really valuable if you are going to train a model. This is why Google is ahead in terms of image generation. So I don't see ChatGPT beating them next week with an image model. Maybe I'll be surprised. That would be a huge coup if they can pull that off. They are in a panic mode. For the last few years, they've been on top and become complacent. They thought they were so far ahead that there was no way anybody was going to catch up. And that has allowed them to get into a position where they are now, where suddenly they have Gemini, Google, and Anthropic's Claude biting at their heels. They also have DeepSeek and the Chinese models releasing open source versions because the API is 10 to 20 times cheaper. Suddenly, OpenAI are not looking as pretty as they thought. They need to raise money, and they need to be the paramount company. They need to be the one who are leading the charge in order to keep getting that cash. And if they don't, the whole thing collapses because they're not making money. They do not generate enough revenue, and they certainly don't generate enough profit to make this a sustainable venture. And they're eyeing an IPO in 2026, 2027. This is why we've got the code red. They have bumped into competition they did not think existed. They should have known it was coming. They probably sat on their laurels too long and now had a rude wake-up call. Tracy says, Nano Banana Pro is amazing. I prefer to use Grok than OpenAI. So bless ChatGPT, it's terrible image gen. I saw something fascinating. Whenever you use image generation in ChatGPT, it has this weird yellow color. People have called it the piss filter, which is mean but accurate. Why has it got that color? I went down this rabbit hole yesterday. I saw Ethan Mollick tweeting about it and asking, does anyone know why? And I found this tweet, which I'm actually going to read out. It's from somebody who talked to the team responsible for the data going into the model. After talking to some people, I think I have a clearer understanding. When OpenAI released its image generation feature, which quickly went viral, they were swamped with demand. This created a perfect opportunity for them to purchase large amounts of labeled data to improve image generation capabilities. So this is what Google have that OpenAI do not. Google have all of this image data via Google Image. They've already cataloged it, it's already labeled, it's already good for training, whereas OpenAI have to go and purchase it or scrape it from Google Image, basically go nick it. So here's how data label processing typically works. Taskers from lower income countries such as Argentina or the Philippines are assigned random tasks. These tasks vary and the taskers are paid per task, similar to platforms like Mechanical Turk work. Microtasks split over thousands of workers, each person is paid 5 cents for each task that they do. And it could be data labeling, matching images. You use humans, pay them a small amount per task, and they do thousands of tasks a day in order to train your artificial intelligences. Now, when it comes to the image generation, the image is provided as part of the prompt, either input by the user or attached with an ideal image. The training data is not manually created. There are no prompts instructing taskers to use tools like Photoshop. These human beings are being asked to complete tasks in a way an AI would. We're using the results of human creation to train the AI. They're being given a prompt. Give me an image of a Studio Ghibli style bus. And they're not making that image in Photoshop. That would require too much skill. That would cost too much to do. So instead they're going and finding similar images. The model is trained on images sourced from the internet. They will Google Studio Ghibli bus in Google Image and pull that into the Mechanical Turk task. However, sometimes taskers ended up using images generated by ChatGPT itself. In those cases, ChatGPT essentially consumes its own generated images. So let's do this. Let's do Studio Ghibli bus, the example. Okay, there are some real ones here, but let's see. These are all real, probably because something actually exists. Let's do Studio Ghibli catamaran. These are not AI generated. This example is not working unless these are AI generated. What was happening was these task people, human beings, were going and finding images on the internet, but because ChatGPT was having a moment and there was already lots of ChatGPT generated images out there, a lot of the time they were finding a ChatGPT image and then feeding it back in to ChatGPT as a new training data. Without proper safeguards, when these images are fed into the training process without interacting with the loss function for image generation, the model's weights can shift in favor of those images. Limited data for text-to-image generation can lead to a potential bias towards those types of images. So if there were lots of ChatGPT generated images were being fed into ChatGPT, the training pushes the model as a whole towards generating those kind of images. So the virality of Ghibli-style image generations made ChatGPT's image generation capabilities widely known. That was their moment when people were like, oh, wow, this is awesome. And everybody and their mother was generating these images. As a result, many taskers started answering tasks, often based on real user requests. These generated images became part of the training data, but this process is called synthetic data. It wasn't purposeful synthetic data. Taskers were almost certainly punished for doing this, but it happened at a large enough scale that this poisoned the data. The synthetic data went into the model and is now stuck in it. By the time the crackdown happened, the damage was all done and the data pools were tainted. The question is, why did it go yellow? It could have gone in any direction. It could have gone blue. So if enough data was put in that was tinted blue, the synthetic data was tinted blue, that would be used and the model would go in that direction, thinking that this is the best type of image to generate. Is this weird nostalgic yellow? Probably from Studio Ghibli images. Studio Ghibli has that kind of warm, nostalgic, autumnal feeling in a lot of their images. So that poisoned the data further and further, which means that all the images we get from ChatGPT now have that kind of yellow. Another issue comes from how they gather data, particularly by scraping Google Images. By conducting keyword searches and scraping images from these sites, they could collect large amounts of data. However, as these sites became increasingly populated with AI-generated images, the scraped data started to become a mix of real and synthetic images. This created a synthetic data being treated as legitimate, not AI, which can have downstream effects on the model's behavior. One strange outcome is everything now seems to be rendered with a piss-colored hue. So this is probably the best description I've seen of why ChatGPT has these weird yellow images. And it's to do with ChatGPT training on ChatGPT images. And at some point, this yellow bias was introduced. probably because people were making warm, friendly ChatGPT style images rather than cool blue cyberpunk images. And that started to poison the data because it was being trained on its own images by these human labelers who were basically trying to get paid without doing the work. Unfortunately, now that's in the model. Unless you retrain from scratch and scrap everything, you're stuck with that yellow hue. So I thought this was a fascinating post, which is why I wanted to go through. Oh, this is Lyra from TikTok, by the way. Hey, Lyra. Going to hop over to some questions on TikTok. I'm everywhere now, Lyra. I'm on YouTube. I'm doing this in my community as well to test. It's a technical test to see whether it works in the community. I'll be sending out information about how to join the free community. But first, we're seeing whether it works. The yellow hue, everybody who's used ChatGPT's image generator knows this. It has this weird yellow. Gross. Why are people stepping away from ChatGPT, says Duke? Because of Gemini. And Timothy below says, I need to cancel my OpenAI subscription. The main reason is Gemini. Lots of people have different reasons for being annoyed with ChatGPT. It's a little unfair on ChatGPT just because ChatGPT has become the normal one that we use. It's the default. Because people have been using it for so long, we've had a lot of time to find things that we don't like about it. Whereas when we move to something new, like Gemini or Claude, it's very easy to be like, wow, this is much better, because we are not burdened with the kind of baggage of having used the model for a long time. So it's new, it's exciting, it's novel, and we haven't yet seen the chinks in its armor. So ChatGPT, there are legitimate reasons why people are moving, but I also think there's something new, which is Gemini 3. And people like to move between models. And I 100% think we should test them all out. And Gemini 3 is very good. But this has caused panic at OpenAI, where they declared a code red, which is basically we need to secure our main product, make sure it is the best in the world, rather than focusing on side projects. Claude by Anthropic. Claude is really good at one or two things. It is a very good work artificial intelligence. It is very good at coding. It doesn't generate images. It doesn't generate video. Its voice mode's a bit rubbish. I don't think it has the ability to video and show. I've never used it anyway. It's very limited in functionality, but well, whereas OpenAI have gone the other way, which is have a very good model in the middle, not the best at anything. They added different tools and functions and to keep the marketing hype going. It allows them to stay in the news, but it looks like their core product has degraded or got to a point where people are willing to move to Gemini. They're willing to move to Claude, DeepSeek, to other alternatives, which has not been the case for the last few years. Personally, I think this is fantastic. Competition is good. We want competition because it means everyone progresses faster and it's good for us as consumers. There's lots of people in chat saying I need to cancel my OpenAI subscription. Me too. If it's in chat, it's usually recorded for 30 days. Yeah, there are also very valid concerns about privacy. So with someone like Google, most people have trusted Google with their data for a decade plus, and Google have, for the most part, been pretty good with our data. Yes, they use it to serve adverts, but they haven't been egregiously evil with our data. Their business is built on data. Their business is built on serving us adverts. It's about 70% of their business, but they haven't sold our data off wholesale. We don't really know what OpenAI is going to do with our information. We don't know what they're going to do with advertising and handle our privacy. Whereas with Google, we have a fair idea. They know they can't get away with too much. Otherwise, they will hemorrhage users. It's a better the devil situation here. Sorry, I know people at OpenAI and Google, and I'm not calling you devils, but it feels safer with Google than OpenAI. Does not have a proven track record of privacy. If anything, they have a negative track record here. Layla, very interested about the piss-coloured hue. I was wondering why it does that. When will ChatGPT 5.2 come out? Probably next week. We don't know if it's going to be 5.2, but there's something being developed. It's called Garlic, which seems to reference Gemini being a vampire. They're going to use garlic to ward off Gemini, the vampire. Sorry, not onion. Garlic. Love Claude and their focus. OpenAI should do the same. Claude are hyper-focused. They don't hype things up. When they released Opus 4.5 last Monday, they just said, here we go, it's the new best model, and that's it. Like, if this was OpenAI, they would have a huge conference and they'd be telling us it's the best thing on earth. Same with Google. Google love a big presentation. Claude just drop a tweet saying, oh yeah, Opus 4.5 is ready. They undermarket what they're building because what they build is very good. We are looking at an IPO, an initial public offering for Anthropic in sight. Anthropic plans for an IPO as early as 2026, according to the Financial Times. They have engaged Wilson Sonsini to prepare for a potential IPO. We know that ChatGPT creators OpenAI are potentially looking at an IPO in 2027. Anthropic will beat them to the punch and IPO in 2026. This will be the first big artificial intelligence company that will be doing an IPO. So there's not much in terms of information here. Anthropic, the artificial intelligence startup backed by Google and Amazon, has hired Wilson Sonsini to prepare for an IPO that take place as early as 2026. An IPO would give the company, which operates the AI chatbot Claude, a more efficient way to raise capital and provide leverage for bigger acquisitions through public stock. Interestingly, they just purchased a company called Bun. They might be looking to acquire more. The move comes as AI adoption gains pace. This is a rumor, but they have engaged a legal firm to potentially discuss this. We'll probably see a lot of the independent private AI companies moving in this direction as well. And some people are going to make an awful lot of money by getting in on the bottom floor with this. So yeah, Anthropic are just grinding away in the background, doing really good work, releasing the best models, whereas OpenAI got distracted over the last year. And that's why we're seeing them in this red alert mode right now. I'm calling it Onion from now on. Based on Figma's IPO, this could be crazy. Figma's was wild. I wonder if they're trying to get an IPO before the bubble, before there's a deflation or a correction in the market. I wonder if they want to get in quickly, get that IPO sorted, liquidate, or allow their initial investors to cash out, make a lot of money for their employees and their leaders, and then go from there. If you are even thinking about the AI bubble popping, getting an IPO done quickly before that happens is probably the play. I'm sure there are other reasons, but it would not be a bad idea. We've got stuff about video games. Let's talk about Mistral. Poor Mistral. Mistral is an EU-based AI model. There are not many. I struggle to think of any apart from Mistral. Mistral is French-based. The word is like a cold wind in the south of France or something, so it was a lovely name. So they released Mistral 3, and it is, this is very mean, it achieves state-of-the-art results amongst open European models. This is very mean. Analysts say it now sits within striking distance of GPT-4 and is finally catching up to DeepSeek from 2023. That's very mean, but let's go over to artificial analysis where we can actually see where it stacks up. Basically, they've released a model though, which is, here it is, Mistral 3 large down here. Mistral 3 is not very good. It's not intelligent, fast, and expensive to use. Normally with a model, you'd want it to be high quality, cheap, or fast. And you want two of the three. They've managed to hit none of those. So it's expensive, it's not very fast, and it is not very intelligent, which is a bit sad because it's just underlining that the EU, Europe, is not in this game anymore. We do not have enough money to spend on training models that can compete with America, with companies like Google, OpenAI, or with China, companies like DeepSeek. We're just not there. So it does make you wonder why build anything at all. It's not very good, unfortunately. It is open source. And one thing I wanted to point out, which is really cool, and I wanted to bring this up, they have a really small model. It's a dense model, they're calling it, not a small model, a 3B. So 3B is 3 billion parameters, so it's a very small model. Very interestingly, it can run, oh, here we go. Surprisingly, 3B is small enough to run 100% locally in your browser. I've got it up and running. You can see me on screen. This is running in my browser. The image depicts an individual speaking into two microphones with their left hand set against the background of bookshelf, suggesting he's recording. What does the man look like? The man appears to be an adult with short, dark brown hair, Caucasian, light-coloured shirt, speaking into a microphone indoors. Is he handsome? Subjective perception varies, but many might find him attractive due to his facial features and expression. What is his facial expression? So let's do... Appears intense, exaggeratedly dramatic with a wide open mouth and raised arms as if he was shouting. Cool. Broad, cheerful smile, slightly raised cheeks, eyes looking happily. I don't know why it's so fast. I wish it wouldn't do it so quickly. There we go. Open mouth. Contemplative or slightly surprised with raised eyebrows. So it is doing all of this live. It is also doing this inside of my browser. This is a large language model running locally not just on my computer, but inside my browser. Very small, very dense model. Really cool applications of this running on telephones, running in your browser. I can imagine building different things with this. Mistral, this is called Ministrel. This is worth checking out. Very cool. It's open source, so you can build stuff with it. If you go to Hugging Face or Google Ministral 3B Web GPU, they have this demo. Frontier multimodal AI running in your browser, powered by Ministral 3B. Oh, so it's Mistral 3B, 3 billion parameters. So load model, download the optimized Ministrel model. It's about 3 gigabytes into your browser cache. It hasn't even put it on my computer, just in the cache of my Chrome. Great way to slow down Chrome even more. Private and local. Your video feed is processed locally and never set into a transformer. And real-time vision. We could use this for many cool things. Remember yesterday I showed you a jokey video of some Chinese parents that had set up, I think it was DeepSeek or Quen, they'd set it up in the video mode monitoring their child, and every time he like slumped or he got distracted or played with the iPad, it would say, hey, sit up straight, get back to work, like you need to finish your homework. You could do something similar with posture control. If I'm sitting at my desk all day, I'm going to drop my posture eventually. You could have a little mini model like this in your computer, which just pings you in a little application, hey, sit up. Really very basic, very lightweight use of a large language model, which you could build. I could build that today and have that running on my desktop as just a little tool. Lots of like business applications and personal applications of something so lightweight that is also open source. So I think this is the interesting stuff they're doing. Rather than trying to compete with Gemini 3 Pro and the thinking models, it's the lightweight edge case applications, being able to run models on your telephone in the browser. I think that's exciting. Congratulations to the team. Ignore everyone being a bit mean. Like Theo here says, it's dumber than DeepSeek, 3 times more expensive than DeepSeek, and slower than GPT-5. It is unfortunate they released a day after the new DeepSeek model, which is also open source. That's bad timing. Sorry, guys. Sad news about Mistral. EU is out of the race for sure. The UK. I'm clumping myself in with the EU. I know we famously left, sorry. Like Europe as a whole this is a 2-horse race. It is China and America, and Europe are making noises and gesturing towards, oh, we're going to become we're going to become an AI superpower. It's not going to happen. There's not enough money. There's not enough compute. There's not enough electricity. There's this stat going on about there's a data center, or AI data centers in Ireland use 20% of the national grid. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into the actual data, but if it is, that's not an AI problem. That is a national grid problem. That's because we need better infrastructure in place. And again, we looked at China's electricity power generation from 1985 to 2024. Every other nation has gradually added. The US has gone from 3,000 terawatt hours to about 4.5. China's gone from basically 0 to 10. I think they're at 12 now. So they have realized to have a nation which is technologically advanced, which can train artificial intelligence, etc. We need to have the power, and they have been investing in this since the 1980s for technology, and we have not. Poesis says, legitimately impressive. Play around with it, it's good fun. So it's Ministrel Web GPU, very cool little technology, and I hope it gets more love. The problem is in the media cycles and the coverage, it's all about who's got the biggest, best model. It's not about, hey, we've created a lightweight open source model that you can use use in your browser, so you can use this locally. That doesn't capture the headlines. It's all about bigger numbers, more power, more electricity. So I think this is a very interesting route for Europe to take, which is basically say, hey, look, we can't compete with America and China on electricity, on GPUs. So what we're going to do is focus on edge AI, squeezing down models, making them denser, more efficient, making algorithms better rather than just relying on more parameters and more compute, so that we can get them onto devices. Because whoever gets them onto devices, I think, is going to win. And this is how Apple could come back. If they are, I don't believe they are, but if they are sitting quietly and waiting for this technology to mature so they can swoop in, deploy them on devices, and suddenly have artificial intelligence in the hands of how many Apple iPhones are there? Like billions and billions of people on Earth. They could do extremely well. I don't think that's what they're doing. That could be their plan. I did want to talk about this. I've put out some videos and I talk about Google and how Google are doing extremely well in artificial intelligence right now. And it hasn't come from nowhere. They were leaders in AI before ChatGPT and OpenAI released, and they got caught on the back foot. So a couple of years ago, they realized like, oh God, we've lost the march to OpenAI and we need to build back up and we need to take this back. And they have. It looks like with Gemini, the release of Gemini, suddenly people have realized like, oh, Google do AI. It's like, yeah, they've been doing it for years. What they have, which OpenAI don't have, is they own the entire stack. So they have the cloud computing, they produce their own chipsets, TPUs, so they don't have to buy from NVIDIA, don't have to buy GPUs. They have research scientists, Google DeepMind, which are like the research scientists for artificial intelligence. They have the application layer, so the ability to deploy artificial intelligence in all of their applications in Gmail, Google Images, Android telephones. They have all of that. They have a huge user base. They basically have everything they need. They also, unlike OpenAI, have a lot of cash, a lot of money. What this allows them to do, what Amazon did 20 years ago, Amazon didn't make money for a decade. They made no profits for about 12 years. They were choking out the rest of the market. They entered books, made a loss or broke even, and kept bringing in money because they knew that they could choke out traditional book distributors. And they did this with every other retail industry and killed off the high street, removed the ability for anyone else to operate by choking everyone out and undercutting them until there was no competition left and then Amazon could start to make money. Google could do the same with artificial intelligence because they have cash. They're sitting on piles and piles of cash. So they could choke out ChatGPT creators, OpenAI, Anthropic, and all the others by not adding advertising. They can be a pure artificial intelligence where you go when you're fed up with ChatGPT. They can make AI available for free, so you don't need subscriptions. They can do things that allow them to basically out-sustain the competition, to allow OpenAI to basically die under its own weight. And then once they're the only game left in town, Google can raise the prices, they can add advertising in. So this is the risk. Gemini winning ensures zero profitability for any other large language model. Google will force every other player into an endless sea of red ink by keeping its model free until they bleed out, and then it monetize once its monopoly is secured. It's what Amazon did to retail globally. Google could do with artificial intelligence. No one's making money on data center capex. People who are spending huge amounts on data centers will bleed out and die in the markets while Google waits. And 10 years down the line, okay, now we're going to monetize this and make some money from artificial intelligence because we have killed off all of the competition. So this is a risk. So it is awesome seeing Google enter the market. It's awesome seeing OpenAI realize, oh God, we have competition now. But keep in mind as well that this could be anti-competitive if Google just keep everything free, don't add advertising, and then just wait it out until OpenAI basically die. The other option here is the Chinese models do this by remaining basically free and open source or very low API costs, which undercuts the profit model of companies like OpenAI, of companies like Anthropic. It means that their IPOs that they're planning in 2026 and 2027 are incredibly unattractive. Funding will dry up, the investment won't be there, and they will again collapse under their own weight because the Chinese companies can provide the same thing. But it's going to be an interesting couple of years in terms of market dynamics. What this means for you on a daily basis, use the model that works for you, but be aware that there are big shifting elements going on and that whatever model you use right now may not be around a couple of years from now. What we think of, even though these companies are billions of dollars, they seem too big to fail. We've been there before. This will not be the landscape a couple of years from now, which is exciting, but also terrifying. It's going to be messy. Have you seen the Guardian article about AGI from the Anthropic guy? No, or maybe, I don't think it's a Guardian from Dario. Oh, Jared Kaplan. He looks like Dario. Got glasses. Chief scientist. Oh, I'll cover it tomorrow. It's a very pretty article. Before I go, I finally sat down yesterday and watched The Thinking Game, and I highly recommend it. So the whole thing is available on YouTube, a documentary about DeepMind, so Google DeepMind, and the documentary crew follow them for 5 years. And here's Demis Hassabis with a lot of hair. You can see his hair disappear as the documentary goes on. And to be fair, the size of the things he's working on, I'm surprised it didn't go sooner. It's absolutely fantastic. I sat down and my partner, my girlfriend, I was like, I'm gonna watch an AI documentary. You don't have to watch it. And she's like, oh yeah, that sounds dull. Started watching it and she was riveted. Like, oh, this is really interesting. It's like, yeah, it is. So even if you are not, I know you guys are into AI, but even if you have somebody who's not particularly into artificial intelligence, it's a very good documentary. It's mainly about Demis Hassabis and the running of DeepMind. There's also AlphaGo, both made by the same documentary crew. This is more wide-ranging and it focuses on protein folding, which is what Demis Hassabis went on to win or to share the Nobel Prize for just a couple of years ago. Half the movie's about that. Very cool. My favorite part is once they crack protein solving, a problem that's taken decades, they put their minds to it, and after a year or so, they solve the protein folding problem. They're having a meeting afterwards. It's like, okay, what next? And one of the guys in the meeting is like, okay, we've got a few different options. Like, one, we could just brute force and solve all of the proteins. And Demis Hassabis says, how many is that? And they're like, I don't know, 1 billion, 2 billion proteins. We could probably solve it in a month or so. And Demis Hassabis says, yeah, do that. And the guys, I've got some other options. No, do that. Let's just solve them all. And they solve every single protein fold in about a month and release the data set. They're like, here you go, for free. Go and do amazing science with it. Very cool. Extremely cool. He's a guy not driven by money. When he was 15 or 16, he worked for Bullfrog, the creators of Theme Park, the video game I absolutely loved. Let me find if I can find. There we go. This is Demis Hassabis working on Theme Park. This was before he went off to Cambridge University, and Peter Molyneux, the head of Bullfrog, basically said to Demis Hassabis at the time, this is back in the 90s, don't go to university, I'll give you £1 million to not go. And Demis Hassabis was like, no, I think I should. And he went off to study, despite being offered £1 million, despite not coming from a rich background. He's interested in solving huge problems like artificial intelligence, protein folding, Go, etc. It's well worth a watch. It's totally free on the Google DeepMind channel. Search The Thinking Game documentary. It should turn up. I highly recommend it. It sounds boring, a documentary about artificial intelligence, but it's fascinating, a really good documentary. So please go and watch that. Thanks. All right, I'm going to finish up. Thank you so much, everybody. I will be back tomorrow morning around 10, 11 to go through whatever new news there is. I will cover that Guardian article. Thank you for sending it over, Lyra. I'll have a look at that. If you are not subscribed, there's a newsletter which has a summary of everything that we've covered. I also add in links. So if you want to get links to resources, like the Ministrel model, I'll give you a link to check it out yourself. I'll link in the documentary just so you have resources. This is today's issue, for example. You can see it's got everything in it. That's a free newsletter, comes out every single day. Just go to aiwithkyle.com and you'll be able to sign up for that. Also, everything goes onto the YouTube channel. So this live is basically the raw material that will be cut, edited, and it get turned into YouTube videos. So again, that's a much easier way to access specific pieces of information without having to listen to me go off on tangents or call the new ChatGPT onion instead of garlic. If you want the clean version, it's going to be over on YouTube. Awesome. I think that is everything. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll be back around the same time. Have a fantastic day. Cheers.